Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. This is lesson 64, conference level AFC positional usages, 2020 versus 5-year averages and differences. So now we've gone up to the conference level again. Many of these teams, in fact, all of them will play each other at least twice. So kind of in the grand scheme, you can start thinking about the matchup. What are each team's bringing in as far as strengths and weaknesses? We don't know this information for 2021, so the best we can do is kind of look at what's gone on in the past. It's an inference, but that's what we have to deal with. So that's the limitation of things. So let's continue. By the way, if you hadn't figured it out, do I think positional usages are important? Yes. Okay, that's part of my success. That's what's made me money is people do not, on average, I'm not saying everybody, on average, I have seen people draft in such a way that they either ignoring positional usages or understand them but ignore them anyway. Okay, so I don't know how to explain that other than it is what it is. And if they've got a system that works for them, great. This is my process. You're getting to see it. Let's continue. So we have the AFC East here. Buffalo, Miami, New England, and the Jets, okay? And we can look at 5-year positional averages and 2020 positional averages and the difference. So we can look right away and focus positive and negative on what teams are bringing to the table. I did provide circles for yellow circles, and it looks like I forgot oh no, I didn't forget the quarterback. Good. So you can look across and find the yellow circle, and that says that team in this conference used the quarterback the most, and that would have been Buffalo. So we'll start with Buffalo. Not only did they use quarterback the most, they used their wide receivers at 40, almost 50%. That's almost unheard of across the league. That is spectacular, and to me, that I want lots of pieces in PPR and best ball of the wide receivers there, even the deeper ones, right? So we see a 10% jump versus 5-year average here. You can look across right there. I don't know if that's the right color. Maybe I should do that. There it is. So when Buffalo's playing any of these other 3 teams, they're bringing the best quarterback and the best wide receiver usages. So there, you would think, not only, we're kind of ignoring defenses, but you would think they're going to be passing and passing. So expect those matchups to favor Buffalo's passing. So the other teams are going to have to counter that. Okay? They'll have to counter it with other approaches, their defenses. We're kind of only looking at one side of the ledger here, but that's kind of how I like to do it. Let's go to Miami. Miami uses its tight end the best of everybody in this conference. Congratulations, Gesicki. I think that says that Miami will be peppering the tight end, Gesicki. And so we're talking, 6 games that they're going to have the advantage. So 6 of the, 17, 16, I don't know, games played. So roughly a little bit more than a third of the time, Miami's tight end is going to get featured over their conference competitors. That would seem to indicate that Gesicki is probably a good shot at being a nice tight end 1. I know he's being drafted late. He might surprise. I mean, he's going to have, like I said, a third of 6 games where he's going to be featured. Okay, so you can figure that in the matchup. Isn't that neat? So when you look at it this way, plus 6% over 5 years. So they found their tight end. By the way, 18% is not the best in the league, but compared to the conference, and that's what we're looking at here, pretty good, pretty good. So what does New England do? Well, they're going to bring their RBs to the table, and they're going to try to crush the other opponents, probably through their defense, because I do know they have pretty good defense. Of course, Buffalo does, and actually Miami. So it's a pretty strong defensive league here. But they're going to be using their RBs, so I think you want a piece of that. And that means, kind of like Grosecki, in 6 games, the running backs from New England will have their day on average. So that just tells me that those are worthy. When you've got a third of the show already kind of predicted that they're going to be high use, you've got a good draft targets. So I think people like Harris, James White, Burkhead's gone. So Sony Michel, there we go. So I think you can get some pieces there, especially in best ball. Okay. And if there's an injury, then, next man up, they're going to be valuable. Okay. So Jets, what do the Jets bring? Well, the Jets will be passing 46%, but they're not going to be able to crush, any of their opponents. They don't have the edge over everybody. They do have the edge over Miami and New England for passing, so you would predict that if you could figure out the who's getting the passes, then you probably worthy of the show. So I know you can get some of the wide receivers from the Jets a little cheap, so that may be worth some deeper plays there, because they're going to have some advantage over the other conference leaders as far as they're going to be using other positions to attack. So there's good news, bad news to Jets. People thinking the Jets are going to improve. I don't know. Okay. I just don't know. Their running backs took a hit, -5, and they balanced that with wide receivers. Tight ends are almost non-usable, and the quarterback at 21, that's the conference low. I just not seeing a lot in the Jets as far as beating their conference mates. Okay, so I think just kind of think about that long term. So those are my takeaways at the conference level. So you need to combine those with some of the other lessons we've taken. And again, I don't know if people look at things at the conference level, but it sure to me points to key positions to invest in. And I think we've went over those. So I think the East is pretty good. I think if you want to kind of see a visual side, I did include, probably overkill the visual side. Green is 5-year, purple is 2020, and the red is plus or minus improvements. And you could see Buffalo wide receivers, Miami's tight ends, New England pretty good on the QB and the RB. And the Jets did increase on their wide receivers, but they lost on their running back. So pretty much what I told you. It's just I do love that green-purple colorscape there. It's nice to kind of view and think about those 6 conference games and kind of what each brings to the table and the intensity that's going to happen here. So it is very intriguing here. To me, I think we've hit the high points. I will just say that Miami's quarterback, I do worry about the wide receivers. They did take a hit in 2020, and I just don't know if we're going to see a resurgence there. I think Miami's probably going to run and do the short tight end peppering routine there. Okay, that's that conference in the AFC. Here's our central, and that's AFC North, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh. So again, you can look at the 5-year averages. I'm focusing here on the 2020. And let's talk about Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, the rushing quarterback, increased by 4%. Trouble is that goes right along with the weak wide receivers and some strength in the running backs, but not scary strength by any means. People are jumping on Dobbins. Good player in a interesting but tough position. So I think Baltimore, when they're played, are going to be using their quarterback running to try to beat. And I just don't know if that trick isn't worn out in this conference by now. Remember, they've, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Pittsburgh have seen this all last year. And was he the quarterback the year before? Whatever. They've seen it before. And I don't know if that one trick pony, doesn't work as much. Cincinnati doesn't really have an edge over their conference mates. Probably second in wide receivers at 44%, I guess, if you have to say. Tight end, looks like they surrendered to -4. People saying Joe Mixon. Probably you got from 2020, you'll get in 2021. So they'll keep mixing in the game, but I guess they'll try to improve on their wide receivers. And it is above 40%, so it's not all hope lost, but I think they're going to be struggling almost every game against their conference mates. Cleveland is going to use their running back and their tight end, believe it or not. Whoever the tight end is, they own those positional advantages across their league mates. So that means that 6 games, their Chubb and Hunt and the tight end are going to have their advantages, and they're going to have a third or so of the time. So they're probably going to be worth some targets. I don't remember who the tight end for Cleveland is. 16 is but in this conference, it's not bad. And by the way, Baltimore's at 15, so Andrews is probably going to do Andrews things, but probably not get much of an increase. So he's being drafted high, and, I think he's worthy, but realize that Cleveland does have a slight positional advantage there. So I don't think the passing game in Cleveland, even though they got some, Landry and Odell Beckham, I mean, they have some talented people. Just the situation doesn't. 30%, boy, that's weak sauce. And I'm worried, investing too deeply there. Pittsburgh, it was wide receivers all day, all night. The problem I see is 51% is incredible, and 7%, I think all 3 of the main wide receivers are going to be in play. People are just, almost having trouble picking who's going to be the one. It could be a 1A, 1B, kind of a 2 situation. Maybe Juju's number 2. I don't know. He could be 1B. So I think it's worthy because a third of the time they will be catching a lot of passes. They just split a lot of production. but 50% is amazing. So you still may be able to grab two Pittsburgh folks. Was it Washington? Is he the fourth one? That might be a good deep best ball handcuff play in best ball. Tight ends, people talking about tight ends, Pittsburgh. I don't see that. Running back, they lost Connor. Is Harris going to somehow resurrect that from 24% to 18%? At the end of the day, he may improve, but I just don't know what we're going to see. Pittsburgh, I think, is not going to have, especially early in probably the first conference games, I don't know if he's going to give them such an advantage. Roethlisberger is as good as pretty much the rest of the league as far as passing. The reason Baltimore beats him is because of, Jackson's rushing, but as far as passing, I think Ben owns that. So I believe Pittsburgh will be passing, and trying to build their rookie in. I don't know. Don't know what you're going to get. That's a mystery. And I don't, I guess if I can get Harris cheap, then okay. But I'm not reaching. And I don't think positional usage is pointing to any kind of resurgence there. We'll find out, right? You will know. I mean, if he pops the gate and starts owning it, you'll know quick, right? But if he gets a slow start, you might actually trade for him, hoping he gets better later. That may be a tricky. Whoever drafted him may get disappointed quickly, and you might find a hot hand that you don't think is going to last the whole time. Trade for. Maybe you could invest in a late season RB Harris from Pittsburgh. Maybe could be. Think about that as something kind of a long-term strategy there. Here's the visual here. Cincinnati got a little bump with their wide receivers. Pittsburgh, big bump, but they're running back. So as one went down, one went up. So you never know, how that's going to fit. The wide receivers may come closer, but still coming from 51% down, you're still probably guaranteed that at least two of the 3 or 4 are going to be worth your investment time. So I'm not scared about deep investing in the passing game there. And, Big Ben could be a late quarterback target if you're going to stream and whatnot. He's been reliable. So think about that. Take a look. I like to look in this case more the table, but some people like the visual here, so I gave you both. AFC South, Houston, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Tennessee. I think there's a lot of questions. Let's talk about Houston. Houston did pretty good at their wide receivers, 43. Jacksonville beat them 44, so they're about tied. But who's the quarterback? What's going on? People are talking Watson's going elsewhere, or Watson's going to get suspended. I don't know. Boy, I would not take any of the wide receivers early, but I have been finding in best ball that Brandon Cooks has been there late, and he may be worth a gamble as a wide receiver 3-4 type. Running back, David Johnson, 18% is weak sauce. Tight end, 13%, that's weak. But this whole conference is weak, so it's hard to say on the tight end. You might get a streaming play here. So I think this is the case where 2020's positional usage may not tell us a story as much. There's a lot more uncertainty here with Houston. Indianapolis really was all about the RBs, 6% up, everybody else down. And I guess they're going to start there as well. Their wide receivers down at 30%. That is, and the 5-year average has been weak. I think that holds back. They've got some talented wide receivers. They're just not going to get that 40% play. So I would be cautious and would buy them cheap, if at all. And I think the running game's the way to go there. And they'll have the advantage over their conference mates 6 games. So that's probably worth. People are showing Taylor. I've been picking up Hines and maybe even Marlon Mack in best ball lead, almost free. Marlon Mack are pretty damn close to free. Jacksonville, can the new rookie quarterback, what is he going to do? When does he step in? Minshew, we got 22%. I don't think we're going to get much more out of him. 22%, 24%. The RBs, they drafted, I don't know what you're going to get. The Phenom last year was only at 24. The wide receivers did get 44%. There was some activity, and so there may be some plays in there cheap. And there will probably be lots of passing with some running. I think Jacksonville's probably going to be biased to the passing more than the running, but we'll see. And it just depends on how the quarterback situation shapes up. Tennessee went out and got Julio. Well, they needed to. 34% usage here. That's still weak sauce. And they do not own any advantages except in the tight end, and that's at 16%. And that's really not so great. And they lost Jonnu. So I'm not convinced the tight end's the solution either. I think they're going to use Henry at 26% all day, all night, and hopefully pepper the wide receivers, Julio and A.J. Brown. But I think Henry's going to take some of that show away. I think that Tennessee's going to be more balanced. So I'm not sure how much play you're going to get out of the Tennessee wide receivers. It may be less than you think. So I think there's some uncertainty, and I think a balanced team may be good for the team in the league, but not necessarily good for fantasy. So this is kind of an interesting conference, and I'm not sure with all this is a lot of moving pieces here. And so I'm not sure you can pick the winner. I mean, people would probably lean Tennessee because they have the balance. Certainly seem to have the talent over the whole league. So they should be the winner. But I'm just not sure if any of the other 3 teams can overtake Tennessee. So Tennessee seems to be the conference winner. But I'm not sure you're going to get the PPR passing power that you might be thinking here. Just because Julio was traded doesn't mean that he's somehow different than he was. He's always been good, but he's had some injury and touchdown issues. So maybe a new team, new scenario. Maybe he's different. I don't know. You're going to have to figure the uncertainty into your drafting. Okay. So there seems to be a lot of questions right now from the AFC South. Here's just the numbers. Like I said, some of these numbers I'm not sure we can rely on. I'm not sure what Houston's going to give us. I think running in Indianapolis seems real. Passing with Jacksonville's probably pretty much. And notice that Tennessee seems to be a little bit up and down. Looks like a balance to me. And maybe that's how they'll beat and win the conference, is just being balanced. So I think Henry's worth your play. I wouldn't let be scared by having Julio by any means. In fact, Julio may even open up things for Henry more. So that's where Julio might help, is get Henry loose. Okay. Uh, the West, AFC West, we have Denver, KC, Chargers, and the Raiders. Let's see 2020 who owns what advantages. Believe it or not, Denver, 38% usage for their wide receivers is as good as Kansas City. The issue is the quarterback. If Watson or Rodgers gets to Denver, I think 38% it goes up. And I think it could be passing bonanza. So I think Denver is going to be passing. And I think Fant is usable. I just don't know. I think Gesicki's got a better shot. I'm drafting Gesicki over Fant. The running backs, Gordon. We've got some other ones in there. I don't know what we're going to get. It's like a lot of split to me. I think Gordon still gets your points, but he's not going to do something. He's not going to overachieve in this scenario at all. Kansas City, you would have thought, would have been using their tight end better than an 18%. Okay. Their rushing quarterback at 24 and their wide receivers, there's going to be passing, quarterback rushing with Kelsey, and the rushing game at 20% is very weak. It's laughable. And I just don't know if CEH is somehow going to be different this year. I am not drafting him early. I would, draft him cheap. So I think Kansas City is going to give us what they did in 2020. Kind of ho-hum, but they should win this league. I'm sorry, this conference. Chargers. Rushing with Eckler, they had dropped with his injury 26. 5-year average 29 with Gordon and Eckler. I think Eckler is going to produce at least as good or better, so he should have some upside. The quarterback is going to try to pass short passes. Losing Henry, I don't know the tight end. 15%. I'm not enamored with the Chargers tight ends. I think Keenan Allen is the one. People talking all the other ones. I'm thinking it's the quarterback, Eckler, and Allen. And I don't see anybody else. The good news, Eckler's going to have a nice advantage in 6 games, or at least tied with the Raiders there. So he'll be featured for sure against his conference mates, and I think that's good. And they have a good quarterback that will, I think, keep the rushing going. I think he will keep the rushing going. That's what it looks like to me. And finally, the Raiders, I think the quarterback's going to be a game manager, and they're going to rush. They went out and got, is it Drake with Jacobs? Is that 1A and B, or is that 1 and 2? Be interested to see. They did drop by 3% with Jacobs last year, so I don't know if that influenced them going out. I think it did. Waller gets the short passes, and guess what? That leaves the wide receivers sucking at 30%. 30% is sucking. That is such weak sauce. I am not investing highly in wide receiver. I know people talking about Braylon Edwards and whatnot. Yeah, he's free. I think they're going to get short passes, rushing, tight end, same show they did in 2020. So I think just by the talent, KC should win this conference, but I think that it could be more competitive than KC's going to think. I think there's some balance in the Raiders, and the Chargers have some balance as well. So if the Chargers and the Raiders are injury free, then I think KC's going to be given a run for the conference, or title there. I mean the division title, I guess. Is that what they call them? Division? Yeah, I guess so. Okay, and here's the overall. Fant went good for Denver. KC went up a little bit, but boy, the rushing is sucking. Chargers without Eckler, so I think maybe that's the only increase. Nothing else really changes. I think the tight end goes down. So I think we'll see Eckler take that tight end fantasy points, and I think that we will have enough rushing in Raiders to keep the tight end flipping to Waller. So it's kind of a ho-hum. I don't know a lot of fireworks here in the passing compared to what some of the other divisions have. We'll see. Anyway, that's my tour of the AFC positional usage at the conference level. So use this to envision at least a third of the value of these players here. So get your notes, put them in here, make it happen. Let's crush this year. Okay, this is Dr. John Bush, The Process, signing off. Come back. We're going to do the NFC next lesson.